Hello, and welcome to the Alpha Male Podcast, the podcast where we talk about being an alpha male, strong and dominant in the image of our Creator, made in the image of God. Don't ever apologize for what you are, a strong, dominant man. Alright, guys, I'm going to roll into the bio. If you normally have heard the bio a bunch, I'm going to do it different than I normally do it to emphasize leadership and teaching, because that's part of today's topic. Generally, I'll just record a bio and I'll just plug that in. Mostly because I don't like talking about myself that much and it saves time. But today I'm going to do it off the cuff, so I might forget a few things, but trying to emphasize the leadership and teaching ability. And I do the bio mostly because if you're going to listen to somebody, you should know who it is you're listening to and whether you should listen to them or not. First and foremost, I am a Christian. God is preeminent in my life and everything that I do, and this podcast is no different. I don't apologize for that. You don't have to be a Christian to listen. Just know that I come at everything from that perspective, and I don't apologize for it. I grew up in southeastern United States, what most would consider fairly poor. I joined the Marine Corps at 17. I did a couple of combat tours in Iraq in the infantry as an assaultman. By my second tour, I was already in a leadership position. I was a non-commissioned officer in the Marine Corps by the time my second tour was over, leading men in Iraq. Received quite a few awards, a lot that most Marines do. Also received a Presidential Unit Citation and an Individual Certificate of Commendation for wartime service. Even before the Marine Corps, I was in ROTC for 4 years, where I rose to a fairly high rank. I also served as one of the captains of our school's wrestling team for a time. After my combat tours, I was an urban warfare instructor for the United States Marine Corps, teaching and leading U.S. Marines and others in different aspects of urban warfare and desert warfare. After my time in the Marine Corps was up, I worked for LAPD, where I worked regular patrol assignments and more specialized assignments, fugitive recovery, and some other specialized things. I also served in the United States Army as a non-commissioned officer as a sergeant till the day I got out, both full-time and part-time National Guard. Part of that job was I served in the RSP, which you don't have to know what that means, but I taught young soldiers even before they went to boot camp how to be soldiers. One of my favorite parts. How to march, how to handle a weapon. Also led church services. I also served as a training instructor at one of the most secret facilities in the United States, located in southern Nevada. That's all I'll say about that. I've also served and taught at one of the largest private shooting schools in the country as a professional firearms instructor. I'm also a certified NRA instructor. I should say FBI certified handgun instructor, NRA certified instructor, other three-letter government agency, certified instructor for teaching of shooting. I've been a range master and chief instructor and a manager at different businesses at different times. I also was the commander of a fairly large tactical team in a fairly large metropolitan area. I've been a professional hunter and guide, and part of that is teaching and leading people in the field. I also currently now serve as a team leader of a tactical team in a city where our primary purpose is to deter active shooters, and hopefully we never have to, but if need be, stop active shooters. I've also done quite a bit of competition shooting. I'm very blessed to be a state rifle and pistol champion a few different times over in a few different disciplines, a few different events. I've competed in a lot of other things. But enough of that, guys. Let's roll into today's topic. No surprise, surely you can read when you click on the podcast. Leadership by example. Leading by example. Now our ultimate example is Jesus Christ, the God who became man and came to earth and was tempted in all ways as we are, but yet without sin. He came on this earth as a man tempted as we are and walked perfectly, always acted perfectly, always spoke perfectly. He is our ultimate example. One of my earliest examples of leadership by example was my wrestling coach and my ROTC instructor, Master Gunnery Sergeant Floyd Gladden. Oh, also my cross country coach. When we would be out there running cross country, he was obviously fairly older. He was a retired Master Gunnery Sergeant, which takes quite a while to achieve. And he would be out there running with us. He would be running alongside us or in front of us, with us. He would be doing the push-ups with us. When it came to wrestling, he'd be showing us the moves. Also, one of my first alpha male Christian role models. I'm very blessed that God put him in my life. But a very clear example of leading from the front, leading by example. As Jesus says in John 13, I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. One of the things I'll do as a professional firearms instructor or a tactical team leader, I'll get out and shoot in front of my men. I won't just tell them to do something and not demonstrate it. I'll be like, oh, do this, this will work. I shoot in front of them. As I mentioned, professional firearms instructor at one of the largest private shooting schools in the country. And I don't agree with a lot of what they do and a lot of how they teach, but I do agree with this. Before every class, they gather the instructor, the chief instructor, the assistant instructor, the line coaches, and they do a demo and they shoot at the beginning of the class in front of the students. And I think that's important because you should be able to demonstrate that what you're teaching works. Just like Theodore Roosevelt, if you want your men to charge up a hill and under enemy fire, you ought to be willing to do the same. If you're not willing to do it, don't send other men to do it if you're not willing to yourself. Now there's a time for delegation and there's a time as a leader that you can't do everything, but you should demonstrate that you are willing to do those things, those hard things. One of those things is following orders, especially orders that you don't like or agree with. Now I don't care how alpha you are, we all take orders from somebody, and if you think you don't, you have a rude awakening. Because the Bible says, every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess. One day we'll stand before the judgment seat. I have a king and a Lord, my God, who I answer to. I also have people on this earth that I answer to. So no matter how alpha you think you are, there's somebody that you answer to. And generally, good leaders are good followers. Now there is a time to disobey orders, especially if they are immediately unsafe or just flat out immoral. I would say it's your duty as an alpha male to disobey those orders. But if it's not immediately unsafe or immoral, if you don't like it, then I'd say as an alpha male, it's your duty to assert your point of view in a dominant but respectful manner as well as you can. If there's something wrong with the order that you're given, you point it out. I would assert it's okay to be aggressive and dominant, but at the end of the day, if those are your orders, you concede and you carry them out. To be a good leader, you must first be a good follower, I believe. Jesus himself says he does not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. And he's my ultimate example. Because one day, there'll probably be a time when you have to give men orders, and they won't like it or agree with it. And you may not be able to explain to them why they have to do it. Maybe there's not time, or maybe you're just not at liberty to give them the information. But you expect them to follow your orders as a good leader. And if they don't see you following orders that you're given, why would they follow yours? Again, with the caveat that they're not immoral or inherently immediately unsafe. Or I should say unnecessarily unsafe. In my line of work, a lot of things are unsafe from a worldly perspective. But I trust in God. Psalms 91. I shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at my side, 10,000 at my right hand, but it shall not come near me. Another thing to lead by example and that we don't like is patient endurance. Sometimes things just suck, and you don't want them to suck, and you don't want them to suck for the people under you, but sometimes they just do. Sometimes they just do, and no matter how awful you are, sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. As it is written in the Bible, in this world you will have tribulations. In this world you will have tribulations, or troubles, or trials, depending on your translation. But be of good cheer. Jesus says, I have overcome the world. It is written in James chapter 1, Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him. That's part of being an alpha male: endurance, self-control. Even when it's easier to do the wrong thing, you endure and do the right thing, even when it sucks. Man, even when you get chastened and punished and ridiculed for doing the right thing, even when people stab you in the back, and it would be so much easier to do the wrong thing, you stand up and do the right thing. I won't get into any specifics on that, but I believe that has happened to me even this week, and it has certainly happened to me a few times in the past. Now, there's been plenty of times when I was wrong and I did stuff wrong and I was punished for it, and that's fine too. But it's extra trying when you're doing the right thing and somebody else is not doing the right thing and you're the one getting in trouble for it. Alpha males don't do what's easy, they do what's right, whether or not the right thing is easy or whether or not the right thing is hard, it's inconsequential to you. Does Jesus not say in the Beatitudes, "Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness"? It shouldn't be a surprise if you're persecuted for trying to do the right thing. As that alpha male, no doubt you'll stand out. And what's that old saying? The nail that stands up gets hammered down. And that's true. And you can just lay down and get rolled over like everything else. But if you're an alpha male, you stand up, even if it means you take a little bit more of a beating. Be strong and endure it, and in the end you'll be better for it. If God is for you, who can be against you? Another thing, complaining. And I'm not perfect. I try not to complain, and I fall short of the mark. Sometimes I'll say comments that are not necessary or not helpful or don't edify or don't build up. But I really try, especially when things really suck, to not complain. Complaining doesn't make anything any better. If there's a problem and you can fix it and don't complain about it. If you can't fix it, then don't worry about it and don't complain about it because there's nothing you can do. And if you don't want your men to complain, if you don't want others to complain, then lead by example. Don't complain. If you want the people under you to act a certain way or the people around you to act a certain way, then you have to act that certain way. Complaining is like a leech just sucking out your joy in life. If you're really tired and you complain about being tired, it doesn't make you any less tired. It makes you focused on being tired. Focus on something better. If you can get rest, get more rest. Try and fix that, rectify it. But if you know in the situation you're about to work a 12-hour shift and you're already tired, complaining about how tired you are is not going to change the fact that you're tired. In fact, you're probably going to feel worse because you're focused on it. Patiently endure. Lead by example. Now, there's a time to convey bad information or poor information. I'm not saying that. Speak the truth when you have to, even when it sucks. But if it's not useful or important information and it's negative, then is that not complaining? Sometimes you have to say bad things because the information has to get out. But don't complain for the sake of complaining. And none of us are perfect. As the Bible says, mankind has tamed all manner of beasts on this earth, but no man can tame the tongue. And my words certainly aren't perfect. But make it an effort in life to not complain. If people look at you and see you going through something crappy and not complaining or really trying hard not to complain, they'll see that as an example and hopefully they'll follow it. If that's not reason enough, the initial reason you shouldn't complain is because you're told not to. In the book of Philippians, do all things without grumbling or disputing. Or some translations, do everything without complaining or arguing. And as I said, I'm certainly not perfect at this. But exercise that discipline, that self-control, that patient endurance. For it is written, to he who has, more shall be given, and he will have an abundance. But to him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him. Use those things like a muscle. Exercise them. Endurance, self-control, perseverance. I don't think I have to tell you that in life, sometimes things don't go your way. Sometimes you suffer injustice and persecution for no fault of your own. Sometimes you're just put in a really crappy situation. Sometimes you have to give out orders that even you don't agree with and tell your men to do something even you don't like and think is ridiculous or wrong. You do what you can to make it right and you fight for what's right, even if you get hammered down for it. Do the right thing, not because it's easy. If being an alpha male were easy, everybody would be an alpha male, And I'm sure you can look around and see that not everybody is an alpha male. You don't want your men, you don't want the people around you to make excuses, and you don't make excuses. There's reasons. And sometimes you have to give valid reasons, but not excuses. If you want to lead by example, then don't make excuses. But if people around you see you making ridiculous excuses, why wouldn't they do it? Again, lead by example. Be a man. Be strong. Stand your ground and do the right thing, even if you're despised for it, even if nobody backs you up. A great movie, High Noon, with Gary Cooper. A much older movie, it's black and white. You ever get a chance to watch it, it's a great movie. One of my favorites. High Noon. All the people at one point in that movie turn their backs to him when he has to face a group of armed men. But he stands his ground and does it alone, even when everybody forsakes him. His wife comes back at the end, but for a time even she turns her back and leaves. And remember, you'll never be completely forsaken. For it is written, "When my father and my mother forsake me, then the Lord will take care of me." Alpha males, stand up. Stop giving in to the weak, to the fear. Stop laying down because it's easy and stand up for what's right. I don't know that I have to convince anybody in this audience that there's a war against strong, dominant, confident masculinity. Being a strong, dominant Christian man and not apologizing for it. And calling things out even when they're not popular and saying, this is wrong. By its very nature, it's wrong. Yeah, you'll get persecuted for it. You'll get ridiculed for it. You'll probably be called names. So what? You're strong. You're dominant. You're an alpha male. You can take it. So stand up and be that alpha male. I think, gentlemen, that's as good a place as any to wrap up this episode. If you like this podcast, please like, subscribe, and comment. If you think this content is worth $1 or more a month, you please go to Patreon, Good Shepherd Training, at patreon.com. You'll also get some insider content there. You can also ask me questions on there, as well as see some other services that are provided. If you like this podcast, you may like a few others. If you like the important stuff, God and your relationship with Him, check out Simple Man Sermons. If you like guns and gunfighting and gun things, you may like Gunfighter Life. You can check that out. Until next time, be strong. Be an alpha male. Amen.